Welcome to Yubu Podcast, the show on what it means to know, love, and lead yourself, evolving the collective by way of everyone, each one of us. Doing the work of self adds to our world in the most beautiful way. I'm your host, Stephanie Sauvé-Bogue, and this is my 2-year anniversary of launching this podcast, of putting the show out into the world based on nothing but this soul-led nudge that I had some really valuable things to share. And I wanted this work, this sacred, transformational, life-changing work that I get to do with my clients to be accessible to everyone in some way, in a lighthearted way, in a freedom kind of way, in this medium that gets to feel like art, gets to feel like an experiment, gets to feel like freedom for me, and hopefully gets to feel like abundance and value and connection and insight and maybe inspiration for you. 1 year ago, on August 8th, 2025, I recorded an episode, and it was called The Art and Audacity to Begin Again. This episode was all about how do we come back after a hiatus from our creative project. I talked about releasing shame around that, around being able to break the rules that other people decided on, being able to set the parameters for ourselves about what's okay and what's not okay, reconnecting to why the project matters, why to pick it up again. I talked about how sometimes the most unlikely things can throw you out of your commitments and out of your consistency with them. And sometimes the very thing that helps is the thing you least expect. Like, instead of following what an expert wants to tell you about how to do this, as brilliant and successful as they may be, that sometimes for some of us, the secret sauce is actually in giving ourselves complete, radical, untethered permission for the rebellion of authenticity to do it in our own way. And that's what I learned. I learned that the more I tried to learn about how to do this better, the further from my vision that I got. So I came back shamelessly and I talked about what it means to begin again after a 5-month hiatus that I had had from recording. Previous to that, I was recording once or twice a week. And so a 5-month break felt like failure. Oh my gosh, I dropped the ball. My audience, as small as they may be, they are passionate and they are waiting and they are hoping that I will keep going. And we hope that, right? Of course, they move on. There's so much out there for them, which is beautiful. There's no pressure. At the same time, it means the world to me when people let me know that they binged all the episodes and it taught them so much and it moved them and they felt connected to themselves more and they felt connected to me and they felt connected to these ideas that would then maybe influence their life in a beautiful way. And when I connect to that, I realize how important it is actually to continue to answer the call, the soul calling to do this show. even if nobody knows who I am besides the few people that do, because it's not about that. It's about answering the call, because I don't know the whole picture yet. And so, for as long as I'm still alive, it matters to recommit. And that's what we're going to talk about today. It's been 1 year. I did that one episode, and in that episode, I reclaimed something new for myself around this project. And as you know from the beginning, this project was always meant to be a creative experiment where I would bring you with me and we would learn as we go. And I would show you everything that I'm learning along the way and be really transparent about what I have found that really, really works to make us feel grounded, connected, empowered, inspired, successful, aligned in a soul led life where we actually feel alive and authentic to ourselves. And so I came in after 5 months of not recording, and I talked about how I was releasing the structure I had originally set out to pursue and to stay committed to. And I decided to lean even more into the permission to break all the podcasting rules and see what happens. And it lights me up, honestly, to keep doing that. So it's been a year and things are different now. In my last episode, I said, I'm going to come back in as often as it feels alive to do it, as often as I feel called. I'm going to remove all the rules around it. And I'm going to let myself really be free with this. And I'm going to take you guys with me. And I love that. And I am still claiming that. And so that kind of gives me this feeling of exhale. And also, I want to add to the conversation that I brought to you guys a year ago with a few more layers of how we can help ourselves stay devoted to our purpose work, to our soul's calling, to the things we care about, especially when we find that maybe even if we're really passionate and talented and brilliant and motivated and we care a lot, maybe we still get in our own way. Maybe we let life be the reason that we put the project down. There's all kinds of reasons that we go full magic carpet ride, flying towards a goal, passionately into a project, and then wah wah. Meh. What happened? Where were you? Where have you been? Did you stop caring about it? Did you disappear? Did you lose the internet? What happened? So I want you to begin to call forth for yourself. I want to invite you to do this with me if it feels fun, if it feels important. I know you have a project, boo. I know you have a project, my friend. Something that's been on your mind, on your heart, on your soul that you haven't followed through on all the way. Maybe you haven't even started it. Maybe you started and then you fell off. Maybe you have more to do and you're wondering, how can I stay consistent? How can I stay devoted to this project? Because there's a pattern. of being in and then being out, being in and being out, and being in and being out. I recently was sitting with some clients and we were having a conversation about something that just does not feel like it's working in their life. And as we're parsing out solutions and dreaming up potential directions forward, they were saying, we've tried that, but we've tried that, but we've done that. That worked for a while until it didn't. And it really got me thinking about myself and where I do this and where many other people in my orbit, whether it be clients, family, or friends, do this thing where we imagine that at some point it's just supposed to work. And if it hasn't completely worked yet, then we're done. But when I really sat with that and we really were talking through this, and honestly, these are conversations I'm having with people often. And every time we come to this realization that, well, I guess this thing just still matters. What are we supposed to do with that? And luckily for all of us, from my perspective, there's a really simple answer to that. And it's we keep going. We keep answering the call. We keep showing up no matter what happened, no matter how many times we took a break, no matter how many things we tried and it didn't work to completion. Because sometimes, what does that even mean? Sometimes the thing we crave, the thing we say we want, is an ongoing experience in our life, and it requires us to show up day after day and face it again and again and again. And so sometimes we're seeking this feeling of completeness. I did it. When really it is that. And it's, I did it. I'm so grateful. And what did I learn? What do I want to remove that didn't quite work? What do I want to keep that worked well? And what do I want to add in that's going to potentially make it even better? So I want you to keep those 3 questions in mind. We're going to return to them. Those are really good questions to be asking ourselves. It's a powerful time to manifest not just what we want, but what we're ready to let go of. So we're going to look at those 3 questions. So if you want to answer some of the journaling prompts I'm going to offer you, I encourage you to pause this and get a piece of paper and a pen so that you can join me in answering these questions for yourself. Because what is most interesting to me and why I find it worth it to spend my time recording this show is it's not just a calling for me to answer, it is for you. And that's why I called it You Boo. Because it is for you, us, all of us. And it's not about me talking at you about information that you could find anywhere. It is about being here, present with me, and I care about you and your life, and being in this work together, in this work of self. Because when we do that work, we can bring more to the world. It's really ultimately not about just us being fixated on ourselves. It's so much deeper and bigger than that. It's about the way that when we can't be with ourselves, when we don't have enough self awareness or enough confidence or enough self leadership, how that can negatively impact so many people and the planet and our future and everyone who's involved with it. And so the opposite of that is okay, I get to know myself and I own both my gifts and my challenges, my shadow and my light, my magic and my mess. And when I do that, I can be such a great collaborator with life and everyone in it. And so this isn't about perfection, and it's not about taking ourselves too seriously. We can be curious, we can be lighthearted. And if you know me, then you know we are also going to get deep at times. And so it really is about touching on all of the layers of what it means to be here: body, mind, emotion, intuition, spirit, soul, and the situations of our life. I love what happens when we take all the pillars of self and life into consideration and weave them together into a greater understanding of the tapestry in our lives. And so I would encourage you to go back and listen to the last episode, because it is the scaffolding that this episode is built on. But this episode is going to stand alone either way. But what I want to do is expand on some of the ideas from 1 year ago that I brought into here. Because look at what happened, you guys. I came back after 5 months with an episode called The Art and Audacity of Beginning Again. And I did this really passionate episode about how I was reconnecting to why I started this show in the first place after I got majorly derailed by joining a podcasting course. And even though the course was incredible and led by amazing women that I respect and admire, it did something for me where suddenly all of the suggestions about how to do this better severely clouded my vision. And my vision suddenly wasn't there. And it suddenly felt impossible to plug in the equipment and speak into the mic and channel and speak from the heart and just share unscripted what I wanted to share with you, which is what I had been doing all along. And so I came back in after 5 months and I talked about that experience. And I talked about how, oh my gosh, I have my vision back. Incredible. I'm so excited to reconnect to this vision and to do it a little bit differently. I'm removing the rules and the parameters that I had put on myself before. And I'm going to let myself be really free with this. I'm going to rebel even more. I'm going to break even more of the podcasting rules and see what happens, because it's fun. Because why not? Because this is a low risk project that really matters to me. Otherwise, I wouldn't spend my time doing it. But also, no one's paying me to do this. I have freedom in this. That's so fun. And so I want to be creative. I want to be in my creative flow. I want to discover what's possible. I want to bring you with me. I want to hear about what you're doing. I want us to do this together our most audacious, creative, freedom, self expressed, soul led, authentic, voice led projects where it's like, it's your music, it's your art, it's your public speaking thing that you want to put out into the world, it's your vision. And I want us all to have something that we can do without consequence, just to find out, just to find out why it matters, just to explore more about our purpose work in the world without it being meddled by things like money and contracts and rules. Not to say that we can't talk about those projects too, because how fun. I love business, entrepreneurship. I love money. I love talking about all of it. I really deeply believe that money flowing abundantly to people who care, who have wisdom, who have creativity and really good solutions for a better future that includes all of us, including all humans and plants and animals and our planet. Yes, please. Imagine how good it gets. The more empowered, empathic, wise, intelligent, creative people step into roles of leadership and empowered positioning in our society because they're resourced. I'm all about it. We're going to get into those topics more in future episodes. But for today, I'm going to bring us back to this idea of being so cringe, so shameless, to begin again, again, and again, and again, and again, and again, if you have to. There are people that I know who started something and they, from that moment forward, were consistent. They never dropped the project or the business. They were able to hold that commitment no matter what. They showed up messy. They showed up tired. They showed up no matter what every week. They started their business, they opened the doors, and then the doors never closed. It's incredible to see people do that. And then there's so many people also, I see you, boo, me too, who have done that in some areas, but not others. So obviously, you guys have publicly seen me share that I was coming back for one episode and then not come back for a year. Shame, right? Oh my gosh, how could I even show my face back on this channel? But I gotta be honest with you guys, as I always am. I don't feel ashamed. Maybe I should, but I just don't. I reflect on how this happened though, and I want to talk about it because I bet that you can think of at least one project where you're like, yeah, there's that thing I keep coming back to and keep putting down again. And I wonder what would happen if I stayed consistent with it. And man, I kind of miss that project. So 2 days ago, I was sitting here at my computer and I was working on some client work or something. I don't even remember. All of a sudden, Yubu podcast, it just comes right back into my awareness so loudly. And I hadn't been thinking about it at all. And I just have this feeling and I have this feeling that's like, you got to bring it back. And I'm like, okay, how interesting. Because I had been thinking about, am I going to bring it back the same as it was? Or am I going to rethink this in season 3? And I'd kind of been in that like contemplative phase for maybe too long. But all of a sudden, it was like, girl, it's almost 8/8. That's why you're thinking about it. Oh, it's the 2-year anniversary of putting this out into the world. And honestly, feeling so liberated by that decision for many, many reasons that I talk about all about in season 1, and I'll continue to talk about. But in short, if this is your first episode and you don't really know the backstory behind this, or if you want a reminder, it can be really abstract feeling. If you're a person who knows, I'm not famous, what reason do people have to want to tune into this, right? Like, who does she think she is, anyways? Of course, that question was there for me. Ever since I was young, I've had these really loud callings, to write, to share my voice in some way or another, to have this gigantic care for not just my own life, but for the collective and for the future and for, our kids and their kids, and how we're passing the world down, and how I deeply care about the meaning of life and why we're here, and what is all of this for, and what is our role, and what is our purpose here, and what can we do to leave this place better than we found it. And so these ideas, these thoughts have been just on my heart and in my soul and in my mind for a long, long, long time. But also, I was just a random person with a normal family and no reason to believe that anyone would necessarily want to listen to what I have to say about these things, even if I have a bachelor's degree and I studied sustainable design and I have like 10 certifications all about how we heal ourselves and how we do the inner work of self to be in full alignment with the authenticity of who we are, and how to understand what our purpose work is in the world, and how to heal from trauma and all the things that get in the way of feeling free. Even though all of that, people don't know who I am unless you're in my orbit, right? Like, I'm not some big deal. So, how can I start a podcast? Why would I think anyone would tune into it? So, when I started it, it was a big deal to me because I was like, who cares? I'm doing this because I'm answering the call. That's enough. Let's see what happens. It's fun. So, reconnecting to that feeling that I had the first day, I can go right back to that day and exactly how I felt and how inspired and Twitter pated that I felt to figure all of this out, and to have my husband in my office with me and just helping me work out the little last minute kinks in the tech that I mostly figured out on my own, but then, at the last minute needed to call in some backup from my sound guy. And so I just remember how I felt so in this like unfounded self trust to just speak unscripted into the mic. And I've been doing that ever since. every episode. And so I, a year ago, came back in, reconnected to that vision, all passionate about it. And I said, I'm not going to follow the rules at all. I'm going to let this project be on its own wavelength. And I did go ahead and record a next episode just a few days later. It was a tribute to my mom, whose birthday is on August 11th. And it was all about things that I had learned from her. And so far, she's still here. So things I have learned from her so far. And when I went to listen back to that episode and watch it, it just it 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 wasn't enough. It didn't land. And there were parts of it that I was like, okay. Parts of it though, I couldn't. It just felt like it didn't quite meet the standard. Even though you guys know my whole thing is show up imperfectly and passionately. It's enough. But this particular episode, if I was honest with myself, I missed the mark. And it was also important to me because it was a tribute to someone that I love so very much. And so I decided, oof, dang, I gotta try again. And I can't tell you guys exactly what happened after that, but I didn't re-record it. And I didn't come back until right now, in this very moment, on 8/8 again, 1 year later. 2 days ago, I got the nudge. It said, bring back you, boo. And I said, okay, I'm answering the call again. So let's talk about how that applies to you and a project that you cared so much about. You care so much about. You cared so much about it one time and maybe you've forgotten all about it. Can you recall something like that? It's interesting how the 1 year anniversaries of things just give us a visceral reminder, isn't it? We experience this with PTSD in a way that often feels really challenging. But we also experience it in ways that feel so good. Like 1 year ago, I have an amazing memory of setting up a late night studio recording. And I felt so inspired and moved to speak again, to share something again. And I feel like that episode had so many valuable things to anyone who has ever felt embarrassed or ashamed to come back after a hiatus. And then I let it ride for a year before I came back again. Does anything in your life feel like that? There's a level of kind of like shamelessness that I'm in, I think, where I'm just like, I don't owe anyone anything with this. It's okay. And that's true. And so, nowhere do I think I owe anyone an apology. But let's go one layer deeper and come along with me with what your project is or what your thing is. Okay, so I had mentioned I was in conversations with other people on these kinds of topics, right? One of them was about a relationship. I've tried that. You know, my questions to them were, okay, Well, every day when you wake up, again, does this relationship still matter to you? And they said, yes. Okay. Well, as long as the relationship still matters, we keep trying. We keep showing up. We keep assessing. Okay, what have I learned about what works and hasn't worked so far? What has changed so that maybe those factors don't even apply anymore? Right? Like, what I've found is often we haven't even given something enough of an effort to know if it actually works or not. We need more time. We need more patience. We need to apply it over and over and over and honor repetition and the discipline of devotion to keep showing up for the thing we care about, to say, what is it that feels like it will work for today? What is it that I said I would commit to? Should I just trust the process and stay the course? When am I allowed to just simply give up? Just because I feel like I've already tried. And other ways this shows up for people that I'm often working with and talking to in my work and in my life is like, when will I get out of this pattern of things feeling hard? Like, when is it just going to be easy to, I don't know, have ease in my relationships, to make enough money, to have enough energy, to feel healthy and strong in my body, to name what it is, right? One thing that's been showing up with my people lately is, when will the pattern of being sober and not sober come to some kind of conclusion that works for me? When will the pattern of going in and out of this relationship come to a resolution where it will finally make sense and I'll know what to do? And so often we're living in this like hope and desire that there will be this resolute feeling. But yet, really what's happening is that this is just ongoing still. We're waking up another day. The calling is still there. The person is still there. The opportunity for the relationship is still there. The business is still there. Our body is still there. So what do we want to do with that? What does it mean if it's worked or not? How does that even apply for today? And so we will give up too easily just because we think something's not working, or it's too late, or we've tried something too many times. And what I can clearly see is that the work of staying present to the things we care about is in every breath, in every minute, in every day, in every week, in every month, in every year, continuing to be mindful and aware and reassess where we're at with that thing. How do we stay committed to it if we care about it, if it matters enough? And so the work of that is never done. And if we can accept that and we can embrace that and we can even fall in love with that, then we don't have to make so many things wrong. We can just simply say, we're still on the path. And so what's next? And so that's exactly what I'm doing now and inviting you to do. 2 days ago, out of nowhere, I got the nudge. You got to bring back you, boo, for another episode on your 2-year anniversary of putting this out into the world. So I started to look around for where I had been keeping my equipment, because I moved out of my old Moonwild studio space that I used to have. I'm in a new space now. I'm recording from my house now, and I had to relocate everything. I had to remind myself how to do everything. I have a new computer. I had to remember what all the apps are that I was using before. And I didn't have a ton of time to figure all this out, but I decided I'm just going to do it because it's calling me and I'm going to answer the call. I'm going to do it imperfectly and passionately, just like I have since the beginning. Who's to say what the rules really are? Am I allowed to come back after a year and just simply pick up where I left off? Why not? So that's exactly what I'm doing. And I'm wondering, is there something in your life that comes to mind that you've been wondering, is it too far gone? Is it too late? Can I have the audacity, the unhinged audacity to begin again, and again and again? Well, that depends. How much does it matter to you? Because the things that matter to us, they don't have an expiry date. They don't have an end date. It's never too late until it's actually too late. And we know when that time is. When everything is final and we really don't have any more options or any more moments left. And so until then, until our final day, until our final breath, we have the option to recommit to whatever it is that we care about. My husband and I have been exploring this topic in our marriage, in our commitment to each other. When things get hard, how do we decide if it's worth it? How do we recommit? How do we stay in love? What is that work of recommitting again and again and again and again to the things and the people that we care about? And how do we decide when something is too far gone? So I want us to contemplate that. And there's some concepts that I've realized through this process that I want to share with you to contemplate for yourself. I'm going to take a little sip of water. I encourage you to remember to hydrate as well. Sometimes the things we reorient ourselves to and recommit to is simply the basics of self-care, right? If we've let too much slide, it's never too late to get back into it. On that note, I just went to a yoga class for the first time in, I think 3 months. And I did 2 back to back. It was so good to be back. Oh my gosh. It felt so hard, but it felt so good. And I just walked in like no time had passed. There is no need to apologize or make a huge deal about it. We can just simply recommit. Obviously, if someone is counting on us and we have made a commitment to them and we just fall off the edge of the earth and don't say anything, obviously that's not conducive to having healthy relationships. So this is being said with that caveat in mind. I'm not encouraging you guys to be flaky, to flake out on your people when they're counting on you. No. It's up to us to know and to be aware of and to decide which things matter on a daily basis to show up to and which things are optional, right? So for today, we're really thinking about, these freedom projects And if what's coming up for you is actually a relationship that's foundational to your life, you might see it as this is a necessity, right? But maybe I haven't actually been treating it like that. So you can apply every single thing we're going to talk about and that we have already been talking about to that still. So, building on the concepts that I shared last time about, like, really, how do we come back and begin again and pick up where we left off without feeling ashamed? Or if we do feel ashamed, what do we do with that? If we feel embarrassed, how do we alchemize that? How do we forgive ourselves and rise to the occasion of coming back with our heart open and our confidence intact, knowing that we are still actually relevant and right on time? Why not? If you think about shows that you love to watch, they have series and then they come to an end and then they're gone for a year. And then suddenly they just come back with a whole new series and everybody's excited. You think of your favorite music artist who puts an album out, it changes your life, it becomes an anthem for a whole generation. You know, there's so many albums from the 90s, actually, from every era, honestly. I'm an elder millennial, so, a lot of the 90s albums were foundational to me and a lot of people my age that were kind of foundational to who we became and what we cared about. And when we hear those songs still in our 40s, we know all the words because everybody learned all the words to all those songs back then. And so you have an artist who puts out an album that changes an entire generation of people to some extent, and then they disappear. They don't put out another album for 20 years. But then suddenly they go on tour, and guess what? Sold out shows. They are still relevant. Anyone who has touched your heart or offered value to you, they're still relevant to come back, right? So I want you to consider, wouldn't that be true about yourself too? If you mattered to someone at some point through your work, your art, your offering, or just simply your relationship with them, isn't it possible that you might still matter if you decide to come back and be like, hey, was just thinking about you and I have something more to share. Are you interested? So I really want you to consider, do you think it's possible that the grace you give people to come back, no matter how long it's been, other people might also give to you? Sometimes we think we're separate from that, don't we? We think, oh my gosh, I have to just hide under a rock forever, maybe move to an island, maybe move to another planet or the moon, because I'm mortified that I recorded an episode a year ago and you haven't heard from me since. Cringe. Oh gosh, no, right? What is it that you have that feels like that? But I've got to tell you, I can tell that I've grown a lot from the inside out, because I honestly, when I thought about coming back and recording tonight, I felt nothing but excitement. I honestly never had a moment of, oh my gosh, I'm so ashamed, I'm so embarrassed. I'm excited. The inspiration is here. I'm going to act on it. I'm going to answer the call. The project is calling and I'm answering the call. And I'm not going to try to guess what anyone thinks or feels about it. I have something that I want to share, and so I'm going to share it, and I can let it be that simple. Isn't that kind of freeing to just let it be that simple? Do you do that already? Could you apply that more to something? And so while I don't feel like I have shame to process about this. And I'm really happy about that. And I don't feel like I owe anyone an apology. And that feels cool and freeing. There's another layer that I want to bring into this conversation to add on to what we talked about a year ago in the last episode that was all about this, what it means to begin again. So, the other layer that I want to think about and ask you to think about with your projects that I'm also thinking about for myself is it actually of service to me and the project to allow for that much freedom and that much rebellion to where I put it down for a whole year? So, is it okay? Yes. But does it benefit the project and my purpose work and the calling to put it down for that long? I do wonder what would have happened if I had decided I am going to make this a priority and show up at least every 2 weeks. So, in a year, how many episodes would I have had? What could that have become? Would I have amazing sponsors by now? That like amazing collaborators? Would I have so many inspiring interviews with other creatives and heart-centered leaders and healers and mystics and interesting people that could inspire you and offer you value? Would it have led to some really cool opportunities to be on other people's podcasts or to meet some of my heroes and people I admire? Would I end up on more stages speaking about these things? Would I have been the reason that someone felt seen and heard and understood and cared about? Would it have led to having some more just like soul friends coming into my orbit, finding me? Would it have led to a lot of the things that I say that I want that aren't quite here yet or that I want to expand into even more? It's interesting to think about because I don't know. I don't know what would have happened if I had said, I'm back, and then I showed up every week to record what was alive for me. Remember how I was saying that I took this podcast on the road with me every time I traveled? And that was one of the most fun things about it. So I talked about how I recorded from my hotel room in Las Vegas and I recorded from my Airbnb in Fiji. And it was so fun to just take it with me and let the energy feel new and fresh and current to what I was in and what I could share with you from that place and that perspective. So since then, in the past year, I've gone to some really cool places. Last April, I supported Hannah from Anamkara Healing Center in leading a retreat in Bali, Indonesia. I went to Mallorca supporting in another women's retreat. And then my husband and I, after that, went to Ibiza and Barcelona. I have gone to Vancouver, BC multiple times. I've gone to a few music festivals. And here, where I live in Spokane, Washington, I have had so many experiences that just the transformation and the growth that my clients have been experiencing has been so real and so profound. And I could have been sharing all of that with you along the way. Like, here's what we are learning. I want to share some of it with you. How does this apply to your life and how can it support you? You know, I got to do some really cool events with some very, very cool women who are just on a magic carpet ride, just flying with their success in their soul led businesses where they are changing thousands of people's lives. And so I got to DJ the Higher Self Party at As She Rises Live. Last October, I got to DJ and MC for Women in Wealth in San Diego with Samantha Skelly. I got to speak on soul led entrepreneurship at As She Rises Live as well, on the panel. And there were a lot of things that felt expansive. And when I reflect on that, and I know there's so many more things than the things I just mentioned, but when I reflect on if I had continued recording weekly as I was living through all of that, all of the stories, all of the hard lessons, all of the mistakes and regrets, and how I alchemized those into more wisdom and more confidence and more know how, and all of the wins, and how I let that change me into a more embodied, heart centered leader with more confidence and trust in myself. All of it. And how I could have brought that to you in real time as it was happening. What would that have done? It could have been monumental for us. And the reason that I think that is because I see how my clients are changing their lives through the work we're doing together, and how the regulars that show up to my weekly class are being so positively influenced by the work we're doing together. And so, if I had also been bringing all of you who listen to this show with me as it was unfolding in real time, the hilarious stories, the embarrassing stories, the lessons, the regrets, the mess, also the magic, the wins, the successes, what could have happened for you? What could have happened for me? What could have happened for this show? What could have happened for Moonwild Studio? I don't know. So when I reflect on that, I do get a little sad for what could have been, because I actually just have this feeling, this knowing that it could have been great. And also, since it just didn't happen and it wasn't the priority at the time, I wonder if that's actually just the truth of what was for the best. Because if I had made this a priority and I was committed to the weekly episodes, is there some way that that would have gotten in the way of these other big, huge commitments that I took on? Would I have dropped the ball at the retreat in some way, or the other retreat, or the conference, or the event, because I was preoccupied with having to record while I'm in Vancouver, while I'm in Ibiza, while I'm in Mallorca, while I'm in Barcelona, while I'm in San Diego? Would I have let it be a distraction? Would I have had less presence with my people or my clients? Would it have led to me saying something that was career ruining that I totally regret? I don't know. I don't know. And now that I actually am mentioning that, something I've been reflecting on since I haven't been recording is some of the things that, because you know I'm unscripted when I'm recording this, some of the things that I know I said in previous episodes way back in the beginning that are the kinds of things that keep you awake at night, that keep me awake at night, I should say. Do you ever have the experience of waking up at 3 a.m. and just like, oh, I can't believe I said that like that. That's not what I meant. Can I go back and change it? Because, oh man, I really hope no one is offended by the way I said that. Because if I could do it again, I would have said it differently. And so there are very specific things that I reflect on that came up in certain episodes. Very specifically, I think about the way that I spoke about how I grew up, some of the dynamics with my family or my parents, and just how I spoke about, the influences that my parents had on me. Because the more that I reflect on how I want to speak about that and what is true, the more I'm like, dang, I didn't give them enough credit when I spoke about it. And that would never be on purpose, of course. But there's a way that I was like, you know what? My mom led herself to have her own business. I think I mentioned that, but I also remember saying that I don't know where I got the idea to be an entrepreneur based on the way I was raised, which is interesting. When I thought about that after many months, I was like, you know what? I think I want to speak about that differently, because very clearly I can see the way that every single person who came before me led me to be the way that I am, alongside just the way I was born and what my soul was here to do. But there's a way that as I'm willing to be more and more and more with the truth and all the layers of myself and my life, the more I see things as they are, for the better and the worse. And sometimes when you put out projects like this, you run the risk of having something permanently out in the world that you wish you said differently. And so I want to talk about that too, because isn't that one of the things that holds us back? When I said I recorded that one episode, that it just didn't land, the tribute to my mom just didn't land, not in the way that I thought I wanted it to. And then I never ever came back and recorded for a whole year. So subconsciously, what happened? Why is it interesting for us to talk about this? Because I want you to consider how it applies to you. Did you ever do something brave or vulnerable, and then you realize that, like, ooh, it didn't quite land? Or it gave you a vulnerability hangover because you're like, I really did my best and I didn't feel like it was enough. Or someone made me feel ashamed, or I'm not quite sure if this is good enough. I had some experiences last year that really rocked me to my core of, girl, why does it feel like you have so many things working against you? And what can you do to come back into alignment? Because you're really stretching yourself, and sometimes it's really vulnerable when you're publicly realizing that maybe you're not as prepared as you could have been, or maybe people aren't receiving it like you thought they would, or maybe you need to practice more. Ooh, man, it is hard to see that about yourself. And is there something like that you have where you're like, there was sort of a milestone moment where I put this thing down? Maybe it's a relationship where you're like, that one thing happened and I gave up on them. I just avoided it because I just don't know how to apologize or ask them to. I don't know how to initiate a repair. So I'm letting this relationship go. What a loss it can be when we do that. Recently, I supported someone in reuniting with their family that they'd been estranged from for 3 years. And they really believed that those people didn't want to reconnect with them. It wasn't true. It was a misunderstanding. Imagine Imagine for the rest of time, a relationship ceases to exist because of that, because both people are too prideful or making an assumption. If you are here listening to this podcast, it gives me a pretty strong idea that you are probably meant to be an initiator in your life. You're probably meant to be a leader. You're probably meant to be an innovator. You're probably meant to be the one to speak up, to go first. That can be a lonely place. Sometimes it can feel, I don't know, somewhat unfair if you feel like, the ball is in their court. Okay, well, here's what I've realized about that. Do we want to be right, or do we want to be happy and fulfilled? Sometimes life is just actually not fair. And sometimes it's not simple. And sometimes we need to own our role. And sometimes our role is to initiate, to be the initiator, to be willing for that, you know? Some people are truly meant to respond, and some people are meant to initiate. If you study human design or you're familiar with it, then you know all about this. If not, it still applies. I found a lot of peace by being willing to do that, to be that. If I want something and I don't have it right now, that's on me. I can't force anyone to do anything, and I don't want to. But what I do want is to own where it's my responsibility to ask for what I want, to initiate a connection or a repair or a project. I can't blame anyone else for the role I play in not having what I want right now. And so that's what we really get to look at. So when I was looking at reflecting on, well, it is okay that I took a year off the podcast and I don't owe anyone an apology and I don't feel ashamed, and that's the truth. I still do wonder what could have been if I had stayed committed. And so instead of letting that make me feel like a failure or feel bad about myself or any of that, and it wouldn't be wrong if I had to process those feels, right? I'm sure I have been processing those feels. I've just gotten so good at alchemizing those kinds of feelings now that it just is something I'm in acceptance of. I am so imperfect and I'm also doing a lot. And these projects have phases and chapters, and that's okay. So I'm entering season 3 of UBoo podcast, and I'm really, really, really lit up to be back. And that's what I'm going to say right now, because all of those questions that I asked about what if, what could have been, instead of letting those make me feel bad, I'm letting them fuel me forward to say, well, what if that's still possible now? I can still tell those stories. I still want to tell those stories. I still want to share those lessons. And it's not too late. Would it have been more potent if I had shared them while they were happening? Maybe, probably, honestly, but I don't know. But isn't that a reason to just wonder what it would be like if I just started now? Again, and brought you guys with me? Let's see what happens if I do that. So without any pressure, I'm still in the calling. I'm still in the curiosity of what this can become. I'm still letting this be an experiment. I still care deeply about why it matters to keep doing this. And that's why I'm returning to it again. I'm returning to it again with even more awareness of why it matters, of why I care about it, of why I want to keep doing it. So beautiful. I let that be a guiding light for now. So, what project or relationship or thing in your life can you apply that kind of thinking to right now? Where you can say, oh my gosh, if I would have just reached out to that person 3 years ago, what could have been? Recently, I'm thinking of another client now. She was deeply missing some people that she used to be just immersed in community with. And so, in her reality, in her experience, was like that her job to do right now was to process the feelings of missing people. But I invited and encouraged another layer, which is, what if you could act on it though? What if they miss you too? What if you invite them to come into a Zoom call with you from afar? What if you send them a text? Let them know you're thinking about them. Well, one thing led to another, and they ended up in this whole reconnection, long conversations, catching up, repair on old things that happened. How beautiful. And all it took was shifting from, oh, I have to learn how to live with these feelings, to, what if I could act on it though? Is there something like that in your life where you're thinking you just have to settle for the feelings of discomfort when really you could take an action? It turns out that sometimes it doesn't matter how much time has passed if you still care about the person, the project, the thing. Sometimes time is irrelevant when you zoom out and look at your whole life. You look at your life story, you look at your life legacy. I said something in my last episode that was like, so what if I took 5 months off? What if I kept doing this for 5 years weekly? Would it matter by then? Probably not. I'm going to go ahead and say the exact same thing right now, even though it's been a year. If I stay the course and I keep showing up for this for 5 years, will it have mattered that for all of 2025, I just recorded one episode? And if anything, I think that what that could do for people is to show you, to show us that you can recommit yourself to what it is that you care about endlessly over a lifetime. And the more you do it, the less it will matter the times that you took a break, the times that you fell short or didn't follow through. And so I'm not going to say that the world or our people have endless forgiveness for us if we aren't showing up. We will have times, relationships, projects that we truly lose out if we don't take action. And I'll be blunt about that. That's the truth. There are certain things in my life that I make a priority no matter what. My one-on-one client work, my clients who are paying me for that work that is intimate, highly curated for them, it is an absolute priority. I make it a priority. I don't ever take days or weeks or months where I flake out on that. No, I'm committed. I'm devoted. I have been for many years now. And so we get to really be reassessing all the time. What are my top level priorities? And what has wiggle room? And a lot of times our passion projects are the things that have wiggle room. Therefore, they do get deprioritized, which is also kind of sad. And that's what I want to invite us to look at is, how could we actually resurrect some of those passion projects that actually meant the world to us, but we forgot about, or we let them be less important? We let them be less important, but they're not. Sometimes they are the thing that will ultimately matter most in 5 or 10 years. So, the book you've been writing for 13 years, like me, you're allowed to make it matter even if no one is paying you for it. I want that for us. I really want that for us. It does matter. Our soul work matters. Our purpose work matters. It becomes part of our legacy and the thing we leave behind after we're gone. And so, what if we could reassess our priorities right now? Let's do it together. Those 3 questions that I brought forward, they're really, really potent in the Lionsgate portal energy that we're in today as I'm recording this. It will be published slightly after, but I'm recording it in this energy, and energy has no walls. And so you can tune into that anytime after the recording, even if it's 2027, 2028, and you're listening to this, it's still relevant because these 3 questions that we're going to do together, they are questions that I bring to my life often. We don't have to wait for a special event astrologically. We don't have to wait for anything. These are questions that allow us to live a really mindful, aligned life that has really, really good energy hygiene, meaning we're always reassessing. So those questions are, what am I ready to let go of? What baggage am I simply ready to drop off in the season that came before? What am I releasing from my life? And so if you have your journal, or if you want to reflect on this with me for yourself, let's do this together. When you look at where you are right now, and you feel into like, what just has not been working? Right away, I'll give you some examples. I'm sure for a lot of you, you know right away, you know what the things are. You might have a list of like 12 things, like I often have. We can be so hard on ourselves, but it's also fun to just be able to face the truth. Okay, if you guys haven't tuned in with me for a while or ever, here's a caveat that I want us to sort of set the scene before we even dive too far into these questions. Often these questions are met with things like self-judgment, shame, fear. What if we could frolic and play lightheartedly in the land of possibility? And we could look at ourselves objectively, like a detective or a curious investigator, just simply noticing in a lighthearted, loving, curious way, if I were to look at me as if I were someone else that I care about very much, but I could see myself clearly, I could see them clearly, what could I notice without judgment that is a little out of alignment right now? That doesn't feel that great, that behavior just simply isn't serving them. That behavior just simply is not serving me right now. Either it's an energy leak in my time, energy, focus. Am I applying my care to the wrong things that really don't do much for me, but I'm kind of addicted to it? So you might look at patterns that straight up are harmful that you're doing, patterns of self-sabotage. You might look at things that are a little less consequential, like maybe I'm a bit blind to how much time I spend doing things that just really aren't working for me anymore. Or maybe it's I've been pouring my heart and energy into something that mattered so much for a time. But if I'm honest, it really doesn't matter that much to me anymore, and I really want permission to put it down. You know, I was with a friend recently who was brave enough to have the really, really, really hard breakup conversation. Actually, quite a few people in my life have been going through that lately. After a relationship that was fundamental, foundational, long term relationships coming to an end, how do you finally make that decision? Oh my gosh. And so, is there something in your life that is might even be a little bit hard to face that you're just ready to put down? So, I want us to ask this question with permission to look at it and be curious about it without feeling like you have to act on it, because you don't. You don't have to act on it. You're just listening to a podcast, right? And if you want to go deeper into some of this stuff, I offer really safe, powerful, effective space one-on-one in a private session setting. And I can see anyone anywhere in the world because we meet on Zoom, and I can hold space and be an intuitive guide. And I am trauma informed in my work and hold like 10 certifications around all the modalities that support you in being able to move through some of these life transitions and these big decisions. So I'm just going to put that out there. If this podcast opens up anything for you that feels hard, I want to make sure you're staying safe emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and physically in your nervous system. So just know I'm here for you if you need one-on-one support. If you would like one-on-one support and you would like to put that in place for yourself, you can book a session with me. So in order to do that, you would find me Moonwild Studio. I have the links in my notes, and you can just book through there, or you can reach out and ask a question. And if not me, please receive support from someone. That's what matters to me. A therapist, a coach, a healer of some kind, a guide. None of us have to do this alone. And honestly, it's so much more powerful when we don't do it alone and we choose a trusted partner in this inner work, or a trusted community. So, with that said, if you can be brave and willing to look at, if I'm honest with myself, and if I'm kind to myself, and if I honor the truth of my inner voice, it's like, yo, please look at this. This is not working. What would a few things be? Immediately, some things come to mind for me, but I'm just going to give you a moment to focus on your own. As you're doing this, remember to breathe. Long, deep exhales really help ground the nervous system into safety as we look at hard things, things that might make us feel not enough. It's okay to feel that. It's not the truth. It just means we get to do a little cleaning up of our life, which can be so, so, so rewarding. And so, what are you letting go of? For the sake of inspiration and transparency, I'll share some of mine. One is clutter. Oh my gosh, decluttering my space. Decluttering my space, decluttering my space, being willing to let go of some belongings that I just simply don't need. And also, the more stuff that we hold on to, the more it can become a burden in our life, you know? And so, really, just being willing to put in the work and the decisive action around that, like, just get it done. Just be decisive, be willing to let some stuff go. so that you can zhuzh and refresh your space. So that's one. I know a lot of my fellow creatives can relate to that one. What else? Scrolling. Oh my gosh, scrolling. There's been a crisis happening in my city with fire, which has led to a lot more scrolling, which I want to be informed and I want to spread the word about all of the amazing resources that are popping up around my city to help people out. I just love the way that community is rallying for people right now. It's so beautiful and gives me so much hope. And also, I'm getting sucked in to a little bit too much scrolling. So I'm going to call myself out for that and say, hey, there's a certain amount that is useful. And after that, it's just self sabotage. Being real about that. Waking up at 3 a.m., don't pick up your phone, honey. Do breath work, journal, do a guided meditation, write down your hopes and dreams, put on some good music, read a book. Don't scroll. You guys relate? That's an obvious one, right? But it doesn't mean that I'm immune to it. Just because I'm a coach and guide for other people does not mean that I don't fall into my own traps of self sabotage. Trust me. Okay, so there's two. What else? Oh, this one where I let myself get away with not going to yoga or going to the gym or doing my movement practices or my workouts. What excuse do I have for that? None that is good enough. I say it's important to me that I want to be fit and strong as I age. The further I get into my 40s, I want to feel good. I want to feel strong. I want to feel radiant and vibrant and resilient and energetic. Well, that takes discipline, honey. It takes work. It takes showing up even if you don't want to for your workouts, for eating healthy, for good self care. Well, sometimes I've been letting that slide quite a bit. So I'm getting real about that with myself. So the thing I'm releasing, since we're still on the releasing question, is the permission to not do the things that I want to have discipline and devotion around because they matter. You know, same with the podcast, right? I gave myself permission to put it down for a year. Not saying it's wrong, just wondering if I still want to keep doing that, right? So I am releasing complacency around some of the things that really matter to me. Letting myself get away with not doing things that matter to me and pretending that it's okay and that it's like not a big deal, you know? Is there anything like that in your life? What else? I am letting go of, well, maybe that's enough for now. Oh, here's one more. Anywhere in my life that feels like lack frequency, the energy of lack, not enough money, not enough time, not enough confidence, not enough whatever. Lack energy, I just don't have time for it anymore. I'm really ready to release that. I'm ready to go all in on really just embracing the energy of abundance. Because what we bring with our beliefs about that and our feeling about that really truly influences how our life plays out and what we decide to do and not do. What we can see and not see that's in front of us as an opportunity. So there's some of mine. I hope that inspires you to think of some for yourself if you were having any trouble with that. And this goes along with some of those, but the last one I'll say is the energy of avoidance, right? Avoidance, procrastination, indecision, where I let myself get away with taking too long when a project is calling, something is calling and I'm not picking up the call, or I'm picking up the call and putting it on hold. for months because I can't decide, or I'm not sure, or I'm not quite ready. So, avoidance, procrastination, it's got to go a little bit more, another layer. So, our first question is, what are we releasing? Here's my encouragement. If you wrote those things down, I want you to pause this and take the time to be with the feelings that come up around those things and say thank you to those things. Let yourself be with the feels. If you need to cry, if you need to be mad, it's okay. But once you come to a feeling of completion with your emotions about it and you return to a neutral state, I want you to look at those things and say thank you for the ways you tried to protect me and for the purpose you've served in my life up until now. I'm ready to let you go for now. One more layer out of my life. Thank you. And I want you to imagine you can alchemize that energy into something fresh and new. And then you can take that piece of paper and in a burn safe container, like if you have an ash pot like I have, or if you have a contained fireplace and you don't have a burn ban right now in where you are, if you can do it truly safely, I would encourage you to burn that piece of paper. If you can't burn something safely, you can rip it up and you can drop it into water that has salt in it. And just imagine that you can alchemize that energy through that process of putting it in the salt water and having it ripped up. And you can just simply like bury it in your garden or flush it down the toilet or throw it in the garbage. Whatever feels right to you to sort of say, I'm closing the chapter on this right now. One more layer. So next is fun. This is our solid foundation. So next we're going to look at, what is it that I have right now that is working, that I'm so grateful for, that I'd like to keep and carry forward into this next chapter. So if this is a moment of transition available to me, and I said I'm going to leave something behind, but what is it I want to bring with me if I'm stepping through a golden door into a next moment? What am I taking with me? You want to look at things like, who are your most trusted, loved people? What is it about your environment that you love, that you've cultivated for yourself, or your work, your home, your city, your people, your community, your mentors? What do you have that feels good? What are you keeping? What are you keeping? Is it a structure you have in place for yourself, a ritual, a routine? Is it a method of self-care? What can you appreciate about yourself that you've cultivated that is working really well? Let's bring that with us. Yeah? So some of those things for me would be continuing to work with mentors that I trust that help me see myself more clearly and my path. Very, very, very effective and helpful. I'm keeping having my own rituals and ceremony moments with myself to come home to my voice, my truth often every day. My daily gratitude ritual that I do where I ask myself, what am I grateful for today? I'm keeping that. I've been doing that for 8 years. It works very well for me. I'm going to keep that. I'm keeping my husband. I'm keeping my home. I'm keeping the sense of permission I give myself to do things in my own way. That's working well for me. I love it. I'm keeping my breathwork practices. I'm keeping the music that I love that helps me change my state every day. I'm keeping all of my friends who make my life more fulfilling. I'm keeping my family, even though they're far away, a lot of them. I'm keeping them close to me. What are you keeping? You might think about the different pillars of life that I mentioned earlier on when you think of your mind, your body, your intuition, your emotions, your spirit, your soul, and your life outside of you. In life, you can think of core relationships, work, home, what you're passionate about. You can think of food, self-care, finances. I'm keeping clients who make this work so deeply rewarding. I'm keeping self-trust and my connection to source so I can channel for my people the thing that is really, really helpful for them to hear today. I'm keeping all the nervous system regulation tools that I've learned and long, deep exhales every day. I'm keeping my connection to nature and how much it matters to me. I'm keeping the feeling that life can be a retreat and I can eat tropical fruit every day if I want. I can make it special. I can have a silk pillowcase. I can wear clothes that make me feel so divine and fancy and just in this luxury of getting to be alive. I'm keeping this lightning bolt bolo tie for those of you who are watching on the YouTube video because I love this thing and it reminds me of high voltage love and my power to offer that to people. I'm keeping art, collecting it, supporting it, and creating it. I'm keeping my plants alive, I hope. What are you keeping? What are you so grateful for? I want us to really take a moment to just place our hands on our heart and just think of the things that you're so grateful for right now and take a breath into that. Let that exhale land right into your heart space. Let that feeling of gratitude fill up your whole body, your whole auric field. This is our foundation of enoughness, being grateful for what we have already. It creates safety in our life. It creates a feeling of enoughness. It is the frequency of abundance. It is being that already without anything having to change. That is the secret sauce to creating more of what you want. The more you can do that, the luckier you will become. Being grateful is the secret sauce to manifesting so many of your wildest dreams. So let's also look at that. My favorite part of this exercise, manifesting more of what we want, and what a perfect day to do it. As a manifester in human design, this is something that is just one of my favorite things to do, and I happen to be good at it. So it's really fun. I love helping others with this too. So if we let ourselves dream, if we put down the logistics of our current reality, hear me out. Are you open and willing to just get wild with me for a minute? I want us to hop on a magic carpet ride to the land of possibility right now. where we can put down restrictions around money, time, other people, and simply tap into possibility, desire, what we imagine just might be possible for us if we let ourselves dream for a minute. If we were able to say, what if, dot, dot, dot. If we were able to put aside having to know how, having to know that it's logical, having to know it will work out, what if we could put that aside and just flirt with possibility? Flirt with dreams that we wish could be possible. What if we actually are more powerful than we think? I know that you are. I know that I am. I've proven it to myself over and over and over, and so have my clients shown me over and over and over, and so have I witnessed it in my mentors and people I admire and people all around me in my life. If you want something badly enough, if you become this vibrant magnet for it, if you become a match for it, magically sometimes it just shows up, or something even better. One day you look back and you wonder, how the heck did I even manage to do that? Look what happened. That's so cool. I remember that a year ago I said I wanted that, and then it happened. I didn't even really connect the dots, but look at that. Do you have something like that? Something you didn't believe was possible, and then it definitely was. And then even more things came of it that you couldn't have guessed. Let's frolic in the land of possibility, shall we? On this potent, powerful day of manifesting, may our guides support us, may Source support us, and the highest frequency energy of just being able to call in and bring closer to us more of what we want to expand on, what we want to call in, what we want to become, what we want to create, what we want to co-create, cultivate for ourselves, for our closest people to us in our life, for a community, for a global collective, for a planet. What do we want? What would be so inspiring to see happen? What would be so inspiring to see happen? I want you to let yourself dream. So, logic aside, limitations aside, limiting beliefs aside, voices of other people aside, what would you love, boo? What would you love, soul friend? What would you love? You might tune in to the energy of your heart, your spirit, your soul self, your higher self, your wiser self, your bravest version of self. What did they want if you let them have anything? What would they ask for? What do you want? What do you really want if you were allowed? Write it down. Is there a number? Is there an amount of money that you want to call in for yourself? And what would you do with it if you got it? Is there a type of person that you want to surround yourself with that's not quite here yet? Is there a type of person you feel yourself to be that isn't quite embodied yet? Isn't quite your lived experience yet? Who do you see yourself to be when you're most proud of yourself, most solid in your identity and your ability to just be authentic without having to try? Because you just are so good with yourself. You are just free when it comes to that. What's your ideal feeling in your body? What kind of clothes are you wearing? How is your hair? Do you want a new tattoo? What about your environment? Do you love your home? Is there something you would change about it? Do you love your city? Is there somewhere you're longing to move? I'm going to talk to you guys more about that in the future. I've, I called a big shot and now I am stretching myself to meet the moment. So I'm excited to bring you guys with me. Let's see. Is there anything in your relationships that need cleaning up? Is there an old pattern that you're sick of living and you want it to play out differently next time? Is there a project you want to bring into the world? A book, a kind of art, a business? Do you want a raise or a promotion? Do you want to propose to someone? What are you calling in? One of mine is I want a new kitty, one that is hypoallergenic for my hubby, that my kitty Ember, my little Siamese, would get along with and love to be with. Yeah, I want to attract the right kitty into our lives. I'm manifesting a big move that I'm not going to share yet. So excited. So excited. Whew, so scary. So Twitter-patingly exciting. I know that's not a word, but it's okay. You know that I like to stretch the rules around here and do things in my own way. We are innovators and visionaries and creatives, and we get to play. So, what are you creating? What do you want? I want to keep working on my book. I want to keep putting out these episodes. I want to take better care of my body. I want to make my home feel so good. I want to deepen some of my relationships. I want to attract more soul aligned clients where we are just meant to do this work together and it just absolutely changes both of our lives for the better. I want to be in beautiful reciprocity with everything and everyone, giving and receiving, feeling so generous and replenishing and balanced. Win-win-win situations everywhere in my life. It already is, and I want to expand on it more. I want to just fall in love with the different things I'm doing even more, become even better at the things that I'm already good at, and fall even more in love, even more devoted to the things I'm committed to. I want to work on my music. I want to work on my art. I want to show up with more devotion and discipline in self-care, with my home, and with Moonwild Studio and all of the work that I do inside of this purpose work company. And I want to fall in even more romantic, beautiful love with my husband. Yeah. So just a few things, you know. Just placing my order, trusting that I'm being received. I think the biggest, most important thing, though, is I really want to cultivate and call forward my wise woman self, my highest, most favorite self to lead. And to really take seriously the finality of my life, and that now really actually matters. Now matters because I don't know how long I have. Wild to think about, right? But it's true. And so I really want to start valuing my time more than I do right now. All the in between time that I have to my highest priority commitments, I want to value that time more and do more with it, more that matters. Yep. I want to be better at calling the people that I love more often. Yeah. I want to find more music that I'm in love with. How about you? What do you want, love? What do you want, my friend? You're allowed to dream. You're allowed to want more. You're allowed to ask for more. It's not greedy and it's not selfish. It is a miracle to be alive in this body at this time, every single one of us. We are allowed to want more. We're allowed to want a big life. We're allowed to want a small life. We're allowed to want a full life. I hope that we all feel that this matters and that we can be fulfilled and we can both take our life so seriously and ourselves not so seriously, and that we can laugh at ourselves and forgive ourselves for being imperfect along the way as we pursue our most important dreams, because that becomes our legacy. And I do think it matters. And I really do believe that despite all of the things that are happening on our planet right now, that there is a version of the future that is hopeful, where things actually evolve in a better direction, where enough heart-centered leaders take the stage and take positions of power and status and leadership, and better decisions get to be made more and more and more and more, and we come together in more harmony, more intelligence, more wisdom, more collaboration, more connection to the earth, to ancient wisdom, and to new innovative solutions that allow us to actually have a future that feels not just hopeful, but even better than it's ever been. What if that's possible? I am holding a vision that it is, because we just don't know. And so I'm going to use my imagination to create more of what I want instead of to fear more of what I don't want. And I invite you to do that as much as feels right to you. I will be here for one-on-one sessions should you want more support. I lead classes every week should you want to tune into those. I will put all of those links in the show notes. If you're just listening to the audio, you can know there's a YouTube video of this if you want to watch the video and connect with me in that way. I would love to receive your questions. I'm dedicating this show to you, to all of our growth when we work on ourselves. And trust me, I'm working on myself all the time and receiving a lot of support for it. So I encourage you to do the same. So if, as you were listening to this, any questions came up for you that you want to be coached on, you want some guidance with, that you want to come into contemplation with me about, post your question under the YouTube video or send me a DM through my Instagram account, moon.wild.studio. If you'll recall from season 1, I was putting out a call for questions, and I'm going to continue to do that. This is simply an invitation, and if it aligns and if I feel that I can offer you some real value with that question, then I will dedicate an episode to, or part of an episode to you and to answering your question. You can be anonymous in your question, or you can share your name, and I'll be happy to give you a shout out. So I would love to hear what comes up for you. What did you notice as you contemplated this for yourself? What questions do you have about how you can bring this alchemy to your life a little bit more? If you want to share just a story that relates to this that I could tell that might help others, a win that you've had, something that you've learned that might help our audience, a regret that you have, or a lesson that you learned that might help all of us. As we share these experiences, we get to apply it to our own life in such a way that not everyone has to make the same mistakes. Not everyone has to experience these things firsthand. Sometimes we get to say, that makes sense. I'm going to apply that to my life and I'll be better off for it. And that's the point of us coming together and sharing. So I really encourage you to do that. So put your question in the comments on the YouTube channel or send me a DM on Instagram. Alternatively, you can email me at moonwildmuse@gmail.com. So thank you for tuning in. That was fun coming back, and I want to send you off with just a giant signal of high voltage love and a belief in your dreams. And I hope that you're in a position right now where you feel that you can be easy on yourself for all the ways that maybe you haven't shown up as much as maybe you would have hoped. I hope you have self-compassion for that. I hope you can forgive yourself for that, and that you can focus more of your attention on what you want to do with it, where you're going next. And I would love to hear, what are your passion projects, or what are the things you're calling in? Maybe it will inspire a future episode. So thanks for tuning in. I'm Stephanie Sauvé-Bogue, and this is Moonwild Studio. And Yubu Podcast is a show about what it means to know, love, and lead yourself, because I believe that we can evolve our collective and create a better future that works for more people, plants, animals, and the planet by way of everyone doing the inner work of self. And so let's get to know ourselves better and lead ourselves with more clarity, more wisdom, and more courage. Sending you off with so much love. I'm so grateful that you're here. If this show made you think of anybody that would benefit from tuning in, please do share. It would mean the world to me. I have a very small but passionate audience for my work right now, and I would just love if I could extend out an energetic invitation to anyone who is meant to do this work with me. I'd love to meet them. So please share the love. If this was valuable to you, feel free to share it on your socials or send to a friend that you think could benefit, or a client that you think could benefit from this conversation. It would mean the world to me, and it just might change their life. You never know. We'd never really know what does. But we all know of a person whose life was moved forward in a direction because of a podcast, right? And I think that's been us as well. So thank you for tuning in. Until next time.